So Black Ops 6 Zombies has been getting a lot of hate ever since the Liberty Falls gameplay reveal, and I wanted to do a video just discussing the hate that is being given towards this mode currently and giving more of a nuanced perspective on it. I know there's lots of people out there that are going to be, completely defending everything regarding Black Ops 6, and there's also going to be people out there just absolutely hating on everything about its existence. And I feel like that's just not the type of person I am. I feel like I'm always going to see both sides, but even in terms of my own personal opinions, I do kind of have mixed thoughts on what we saw. Before I get into this though, I just want to make it clear when we are talking about hate being given towards Black Ops 6 Zombies, I do not condone any sort of harassment of developers at all, even if it's not directly towards them. I don't think it's fair to use the developers' names and say stuff like, oh, they should be fired, they're so terrible. I personally just don't think that's helpful at all, and all you're doing is just making yourself look like an asshole. There's a way to critique a product without critiquing the person who made the product. Like if someone gives you a meal and the meal is pretty bad and you really dislike how it tastes, that doesn't mean the chef is terrible. That doesn't mean the chef is the worst chef of all time. Perhaps they are, I don't know, but you don't have to directly say that to them. You can just simply critique the dish and perhaps they'll make it better later on. At the end of the day, their goal is to make food that's good. Same way with zombies. Their goal is to make zombies that people like. Their goal is to make zombies that is popular, that everyone can enjoy. They want to make it good, so it's okay to critique the mode. It's okay to give feedback. Just don't make it about the devs. Don't start hating on their existence. A lot of people have been doing that, and that shit's got to stop. But what I wanted to discuss in this video are a lot of the comments being made specifically towards people who are giving criticism towards Black Ops 6. Some of these comments were given to me. Some of these comments were just, generally said online, and I wanted to kind of point out different ones that I'm seeing, the most popular comments I've been seeing. The biggest one I've been seeing is definitely just the phrase, people can't accept change, and in particular talking about the zombies community not being able to accept change. Now, I've heard this comment for years, and honestly, it's not exclusive to the zombies community. This is something that a lot of communities have, and this is definitely true for a lot of people. There are a lot of people out there that are just like this, where any bit of change, even if it's good change, they just don't like it. They want their mode to stay very similar for basically their entire life because they just love how it was so much back in the day, and any bit of change kind of irks them the wrong way. And I don't really think there's necessarily anything wrong with that, although I do think the expectation for something to stay the same for so long is where it kind of becomes a problem. But just having that general opinion, I don't think is a big deal. I think it's kind of just part of human nature. I mean, how many times are you using a website or an app, and out of nowhere the app decides to change something related to the UI, and you're just like, why? Why would you change this? Twitter has done so many things like that where they'll randomly change things, and you'll be so confused as to why they made that change, and then maybe like a couple weeks later, you get used to it and it's not really a big deal anymore. You just immediately were not happy with the fact that this app that you've gotten so used to over time now has this big change. And I'm sure a lot of zombies fans feel that same way. They get used to how zombies is, they get used to the formula, and so when it suddenly changes a year later, yeah, it makes sense why at first they're going to be a little like, I'm not really happy with how this is changing. But over time, maybe they'll get used to it, or maybe they won't. Maybe they don't want to get used to it. Maybe they don't care enough to get used to it. But I think it's also fair to say that not all change is good change. It's okay to not like certain changes. There's plenty of changes throughout zombies history that have been really hated on by the community. Look at Black Ops 4. They made some pretty huge innovations and changes, but most of them were not very great. I think most people would agree. I know some people don't mind certain changes like the point system change and the perk system change, but a lot of people agreed that they weren't great changes. They probably shouldn't have changed those elements. But then there's other changes made that most people would consider to be good changes. Stuff like weapon kits just adds an extra layer of customization. I think most people can agree that was a good change made with Black Ops 3 and onward, and other things that are more additive as well. I feel like when it's an additive feature and it's not really taking or changing anything, I think it's much more appreciated, which is what we used to see more back in the day. Like when you go to Black Ops 2 to Black Ops 3, a lot of the changes were more just adding stuff. It was like, okay, now we have so many more Easter eggs, so many more side quests, we have boss fights now. Like those are changes and innovations, but they're not really taking anything away. The core round-based formula was still always there, and those core mechanics weren't like that different year to year. So I do think ever since Black Ops 4 and onward, there's just been so many massive changes to the formula that I'm not surprised that people feel a bit off about about it, because yes, they want that Black Ops 3 feel back. They want those core mechanics back, because we really haven't seen them since, I guess, Black Ops 3 or Infinite Warfare. I feel like Infinite Warfare is kind of similar, but most people haven't played the non-Treyarch games. So if we're talking just Black Ops, yes, Black Ops 3 was the last time we had those core mechanics. Black Ops 4 did make some huge changes, and then of course Cold War did as well in a completely different direction, but still was very different changes that made these zombies feel very different. I don't think it's crazy for someone to want those feelings back that Black Ops 3 gave them, especially because Black Ops 3 never really got a proper follow-up. Although I love Black Ops 4, it wasn't really a proper follow-up in terms of its core mechanics. And this is all kind of besides the point, because to be completely honest, I don't feel like the whole people can't accept change thing even really applies to the hate that Black Ops 6 Zombies has been getting. I have not seen a single complaint about Black Ops 6 Zombies that has anything to do with some big change or innovation that BO6 has made. Not a single one. All of the complaints that have been given are things that have existed in Zombies for the past 4 years. People have been complaining about this stuff since Cold War. They complain about stuff like this in Modern Warfare Zombies, in Vanguard. This is not new complaints, so that's why I'm not really sure how this comment has anything to do with the current scenario when it comes to the hate that Zombies is getting. Sure, maybe it's hate on the changes that have been given to the Warzone era of Zombies, but these changes have been here for 4 years. So the whole idea of, oh, they'll just get used to them later on. No, if they didn't get used to them by now, they're never going to get used to them. People just don't like a lot of these core mechanics, regardless of how popular Cold War Zombies was. And I think a lot of people use the whole Cold War Zombies being the most popular zombies as some sort of proof that everyone loves these core mechanics and the casuals love it. And I don't really think that's necessarily the case. I don't really have proof of this, of course, it's just kind of speculation. But I do believe that a lot of the success from Cold War Zombies was more so tied to external factors that really had nothing to do with the core mechanics. You had the pandemic happening. Everyone was at home playing video games. It was the perfect time for people to be playing video games. So the new Call of Duty, of course, it was going to be really popular. Cold War itself sold really well. It was one of the highest selling Call of Duties to date. And of course, that was mainly due to the campaign and multiplayer, but Zombies obviously is an extra thing people can play. Of course, they're going to try it out. And if everyone's home playing video games, then they're going to be playing a lot of Zombies. That just kind of makes sense. You also had Warzone that recently blew up and got a lot of new people introduced to the Call of Duty franchise, and also a lot of returning people who haven't played Call of Duty since like Black Ops 2. They also returned for Warzone. And so of course, when Cold War came out, they got more interested to try out Zombies, and they probably tried it out. You also had crossplay for the first time in Zombies history, which is absolutely huge. You have free DLC, which is insanely huge. I mean, before you'd get a game like Black Ops 2, if someone wasn't going to buy the DLC for that game, all they had was Transit. Like, that's a terrible map. It's not going to be a good Zombies experience. But at least in Cold War, they get 4 round-based maps, and then they get Outbreak mode and Onslaught. So that's like a decent amount of content there for free. It's pretty huge change that they made. There was also the weapon leveling and the camo grinding, which they kind of had that in prior years. I know Black Ops 4 had a camo grind, but the fact that you can use the camo that you get from Zombies in multiplayer made it so many multiplayer fans wanted to actually play Zombies to grind out that Dark Ether camo, which if it wasn't there, they maybe would have less of a reason to play that much of Zombies. And I'm not saying the core gameplay mechanics of Cold War have absolutely nothing to do with the success of it, but I just don't think it was a massive part of it. I think if the Cold War had the same mechanics of Black Ops 3 and maybe, you know, a little bit simpler maps, maybe not as crazy of a pack-a-punch quest like what Shadows of Evil had, I think the game would have done just as well as Cold War Zombies did, if not more. I think you would have got even more people invested, because not only are people more motivated to play Zombies for the camo grinding, for the weapon level grinding, for the crossplay, the free DLC, but you also would have people getting so much more invested in Zombies just because of the quality of BO3's maps being so much higher than that of Cold War Zombies. So I don't think if BO6 came out and said, okay, a lot of those Cold War systems, we're kind of changing them quite a bit and going back to what it was like in Black Ops 3, I don't think it would have suddenly have turned all these new fans off and they would have been like, oh, I can't play that anymore. I don't really think that would have happened. In fact, I think it would have actually gotten people more excited. And of course, they have come out and said that Black Ops 6 is meant to be the best aspects of BO3 and Cold War kind of put together. But so far, at least at this current point, I don't really see the Black Ops 3 aspects aside from Gobblegums. firearms. I feel like that's the only thing from Black Ops 3 they're really using. Some people have said weapon kits, but I mean, weapon kits were kind of in Cold War. They were just utilized a little bit differently, but I wouldn't say weapon kits is like a huge aspect of BO3. It's not really like what made that game what it is. I'm assuming the Easter eggs and the side quests and the overall map depth is what is going to make it feel more like Black Ops 3, because obviously Cold War didn't really have that same level of depth with its Easter eggs, and I'm hoping that's the case. I'm really excited for the Easter eggs in BO6. I think they're going to be really solid because they have the whole guided mode now, so they're able to put a lot more time and budget into the Easter eggs and just make them absolutely crazy. I hope there's a lot of puzzles. I hope there's a lot of fun, complex steps, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Obviously, we haven't seen any of that yet, so I can't really fully judge that, but based on what we currently know and what we've seen, I only really see like the gobblegum aspect of BO3 being put into this game. So I'm not surprised that so many people are not happy with how it looks, and I really don't think it's as simple as people just not being able to accept change. I've also seen a lot of comparisons to prior Zombies reveals and people saying that this is really nothing new. We've always seen this amount of hate for prior reveals, and a lot of people are saying Black Ops 3's reveal got a lot of hate as well with Shadows of Evil's first trailer. And I do remember there being some hate, don't get me wrong, but that was completely different. Like, it was on a very different level. Not only was the hate very different, but it was also a lot less hate. I've definitely not seen it nearly as much hate with the Shadows of Evil reveal trailer than I am currently with the Black Ops 6 Liberty Falls gameplay reveal. But yes, like I said, the situations were very different. First of all, we are now seeing full gameplay with the HUD and everything, whereas the Black Ops 3 Shadows of Evil reveal was simply just a trailer. And the things people didn't like about that trailer were the aliens. They didn't like the Margwas, they didn't like the parasites, they thought it was not really zombies, they thought it was kind of too out there, where they're kind of jumping the shark a little bit when it comes to what is fair and allowed in zombies mode. And to be completely honest, I think most of the people who are complaining about that probably aren't even playing zombies anymore, because I feel like if you didn't like that, you probably just didn't stick around for the rest, because zombies got really crazy after that. So if you weren't a fan of them doing stuff like that, you probably weren't sticking around. But I also think a lot of it was just people who didn't like extinction from ghosts, and so when they saw things that kind of resembled aliens, they were like, oh my god, they're turning zombies into extinction, which, yeah, I always thought those complaints were ridiculous, if we're going to be honest. I think zombies should have free reign to do whatever it wants with its art style, go crazy with it as much as it wants to. I think it allows them to be more creative with the mode, and I was always fine with that. But I think most people kind of realized that as time went on. When Shadows of Evil came out, and then, you know, over time, I think people started realizing that there's nothing wrong with having a crazy out there art style for zombies, and now it's kind of commonplace to do crazy things. I do think Cold War and the recent zombies modes have kind of dialed it back quite a bit, so there's not as many crazy things, but I do think, you know, BO3 and 4, like, they went out there, and I think most people kind of realized that that's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. This hate is unlike anything I've seen before. I'm going to put some screenshots up on the screen of some of the comments I've been seeing through TikTok and YouTube and Twitter, and I gotta say, I think Twitter's the most positive right now when it comes to BO6. I do think Twitter resembles more of the hardcore zombies community, and I actually think that community is a lot more positive with BO6 right now, because I think most of us are kind of just gonna wait. You know, we're gonna buy the game anyways, so there's really no point for us to all complain about it now. We're kind of just like, okay, we'll hold off most of our criticism until the full game comes out. We'll give certain criticisms here or there, sure, but and when it comes to the full game, we're just really looking forward to the Easter eggs and the side Easter eggs and just seeing how those are, and if those are really good, then it will kind of make or break the mode for us, at least in my opinion. But on TikTok especially, it is a war zone, and I know a lot of people want to say that, oh, if you're commenting about zombies online, you must be part of the hardcore zombies community. That's not true. That cannot be true. You know how I know this? I have friends that haven't played zombies since Black Ops 3. They haven't touched the mode in almost 10 years at this point, and they're sending me TikToks from Black Ops 6 Zombies gameplay and telling me it looks like shit. They are telling me this after not having played zombies for 9 years. They obviously don't look up zombies videos in their free time. They don't look up zombies content on YouTube or Twitter. They don't see that shit, but somehow they got zombies gameplay in their TikTok. This is going outside of just the hardcore community. This is not a bunch of hardcore zombies fans complaining. No, this is even casuals complaining now. There were so many comments about how they thought it looked bad. They said it looked like multiplayer, it looked like Warzone. There's tens of thousands of likes on some of these comments. This is not just a small portion of the community anymore. It is getting far out there. So believe me when I say this is by far the most amount of hate I've ever seen for a zombies reveal ever. The only thing that maybe competes is the Infinite Warfare Zombies in Spaceland reveal trailer that got a lot of dislikes, but I think those dislikes were completely just people jumping on that hate bandwagon with Infinite Warfare as a whole. They hated the campaign reveal trailer, they hated the multiplayer reveal trailer, so they said, fuck it, let's hate on zombies too. I don't really think that hate was necessarily towards zombies itself. It also wasn't gameplay, and also I think when the actual game came out, most people said, yeah, this is kind of whatever, this is fine. And who knows, maybe people will feel that about BO6 zombies when it actually comes out, but like I said, this is just a lot of hate to the point where I think it's going beyond what a lot of people are making it seem like. I think a lot of people are underestimating it. I've also seen quite a bit of just generalizations on the zombies community, and I feel like this is kind of just human nature. I feel like we as humans, we don't want to spend time thinking of all the little bits of nuance that people have, so it's easier to just put people in groups and say, oh, the BO3 fans are feeling this way about it, and oh, the Cold War fans are feeling this way about it, and obviously they're all generalizations at the end of the day. Like I've been seeing a lot of people saying that, oh, people are just going to change their mind like they always do. You know, a couple years later, they'll say, oh, actually this mode was great, even if they were hating it at launch or even before launch. But like, those are obviously generalizations. Not everyone hated, you know, Shadows of Evil at launch. Everyone always says, oh my god, everyone hated Shadows of Evil at launch, and then they love it years later. Not everyone did. I personally loved it at launch. I think a lot of people definitely loved it, and there's plenty of other maps that are just like that too, you know. But some maps do change, you know. Sometimes you might change your opinion over the course of a couple years. That's happened for me as well. Dead of the Night I used to think was just a okay map. Now I think it's like a top 15 map of all time. There's plenty of maps that I've changed my thoughts on, plenty of games as a whole that I changed my thoughts on over time. And people love to use the word, oh, people are switching up on this, they're switching up on that. Isn't that just a normal human reaction though? Like, I don't really get it. To me, that's just normal. Like, it's normal to change your opinions over time. We actually wouldn't be normal people if we sat there with the exact same static opinions throughout our entire lives. That would be odd. I mean, there's a reason people always redo their zombie map ranking videos, because their opinions change over time. I've done it so many times. I'm going to do it again probably this year, and it's because my opinions have changed quite a bit, and it's actually cool to see those opinions change over time and how you've kind of evolved as a fan of a franchise. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think we're bad people because of that. I don't think it's awful for someone to hate a map at launch or even hate it before they even get to play it if they just don't like how it looks, and then when they actually get to play it, they're like, oh, actually this is pretty decent. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We're humans, we're gonna have our opinions, and it's better to be honest with ourselves than lie to ourselves. And I also think that whole mentality is actually more harmful than people realize, because when so many people have that mentality, it makes it so people are almost kind of afraid to change their opinions. They're almost kind of like, maybe I shouldn't change my mind, because so many people treat it like it's an awful thing to do. So if I don't like a map, maybe I should just always hate it. And then subconsciously, they're kind of like not going to allow themselves to ever love it later on. Something like that is just, that's not human. That's not, you know, I think it's just all around just a bad mentality to have. Another comment I've been seeing quite frequently is that we shouldn't judge the game before playing it. And this obviously makes sense for certain things. Like if you're saying the game is trash, it's dead on arrival, like it's automatically a bad game, that doesn't really make any sense. Obviously, if you haven't played it, you really can't give those opinions. I mean, you can, it's kind of just invalid. But if you're critiquing how it looks, if you say it looks bad, if you say it looks like shit, I don't really think that's like a bad thing to say. If that's your honest thought on how it looks, then it's just your honest thought. That's okay. As long as you're not acting like it is shit, then, you know, what's the problem? It's like if I see poop on the ground, I don't have to taste it to know it probably isn't going to taste very good. Now, I'm not saying I think BO6 looks like poop at all. I really don't. I'm way more positive on it than the average person. I'm just saying, if you genuinely think it looks that bad, then it's okay to say it looks bad, because at the end of the day, the developers do want feedback. Now, I do think it's better to give actual constructive feedback instead of just saying it looks like shit. Explain why it looks like shit. Explain what aspects of it look bad to you. Tell me, tell the developers, tell Treyarch, whatever. Respectfully, of course. Don't be a dick about it. Don't be all like, oh my god, you guys deserve to be fired. No, just straight up say, I don't like how this looks, I don't like how that looks, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with presenting your opinion in that way, but it's best to actually get specific with it so then the developers can see that and get some sort of feedback from it. And of course, they're not going to make a change just because, one person says something. So don't act like, just because you say that you don't like this one thing that they're immediately going to change it, because no, that's not how it works. But if enough people say it, if enough people make it clear that they want something to be changed, then yes, they will probably change it. I've seen a lot of people talking about how they don't like the HUD being from Warzone. They want the HUD to be stylized for zombies. A lot of people have been saying that, to the point where I'm pretty confident they might actually make that change. I'm not 100% confident, but I'm like 80% at this point that they might actually make a change to the style of the HUD, because so many people have been asking for it on Twitter over the last few days. And that's good. It's good that we're giving feedback. It's good that we're telling them we don't like how it looks. That doesn't mean you have to think it looks bad. If you think it looks good and you're happy with it, that's fine too. But don't be pissed that other people think it looks bad, because that's, again, it's just a difference of opinion. That's all fine and good. Now, I think when it becomes a little more complicated is if you feel so strongly about the opposite of what a lot of people seem to want with the mode. This happened with me during Infinite Warfare. I saw so many people hating on the space theme. They were hating on the aesthetics of the game, because they said, oh my God, this is too much for Call of Duty. We need to get back to boots on the ground. We need to get back to the military aesthetic, even though that game was very military, even though a lot of people said it wasn't. There, I don't know, they're insane. It's very military, it's just in space. But I was so happy with that theme and that aesthetic, and I wanted to see more games like that. And because so many people were against it, we ended up never seeing anything like that again. We have not gotten a space theme game since. And, I get why they're going to listen to the majority of people, but at the end of the day, I feel like nowadays we're at a point where I think people actually kind of want that space theme back, or at least something different, because we've been getting very similar themes over the past few years of Call of Duty. But the proper response from me would not be to just shit on anyone who doesn't like the space theme. That wouldn't be a proper response. I probably did make those responses back in the day. That I was 16 years old, and you can't really hit me for it too much. But nowadays, like, that wouldn't make sense for me to go and say, oh, fuck you for not liking the space theme. That would be ridiculous. But could I disagree respectfully? Could I say why I disagree and why I think it's actually a really cool setting? Yeah, that to me makes a lot more sense. But that's just not what I've been seeing recently. I've been seeing a lot of people just completely shitting on anyone who says anything negative about Black Ops 6 Zombies, saying that, they're ridiculous, they're bitching, they're complaining too much, all these things that just feel so counterproductive. The next comment I've been seeing quite a bit is that people should have just expected Cold War 2.0, so why are they surprised that it's so similar to Cold War? Now, I honestly think, I wasn't surprised myself, obviously. I knew we were going to probably get a lot of these mechanics to return, but I honestly think a lot of people haven't even played Cold War. Regardless of it being the most popular Call of Duty Zombies to date, there's a lot of people who haven't played it. There's so many people who are seeing the gameplay for the first time this year, and they haven't played Zombies probably since, like, even Black Ops 3 for some of them, or Black Ops 4. I met a couple people who haven't played since BO4, and they were surprised by a lot of the things like the minimap and the health bars. And of course, we know we can turn those off, but most people who are watching the gameplay for the first time, they're not going to know that. They're not going to know that you can customize those things. If they didn't watch the COD Next stream, if they didn't watch the previous reveal, they didn't read the blog post, then how would they know you can do all those things? They're just not going to know. All they're seeing is a single TikTok video of gameplay. And if they see a bunch of that crap that to me just does not look good at all in Zombies, then yeah, it's going to turn them off of the mode a little bit. They might cancel the pre-order right away. I don't know. So I do think your first impressions of delivering a mode is important. And I will say I do think Treyarch kind of dropped the ball there. They definitely should have shown gameplay that's more of a simple HUD, perhaps. Maybe the default HUD should be simpler. Maybe there shouldn't be a minimap or health bars or any of that stuff by default, because I do think a lot of people just don't like how that looks. I don't think it gives a Zombies feel at all. And I'm very glad they're going to let us turn pretty much all that off. But at the same time, when you're delivering the first impressions view of the game, it's hard to really get a good look of how it actually is going to look like for the full game, because I think a lot of people will be turning that shit off. I really do. And when it comes to some other gameplay systems and mechanics, they've changed quite a bit year to year. I mean, again, look at Black Ops 4. Black Ops 4 was very different than Black Ops 3. So I think we're at a point now where people were just hoping that maybe we would go back to some of those classic systems. And obviously, there are certain things that they returned, like gobblegums, but there's just other things that are pretty much exactly the same in Cold War, just maybe slightly different. Like, obviously, they changed how the ammo mods work ever so slightly. You just get them differently now. And obviously, like, armor is now on the wall, but it's not that different. It's kind of the same idea. So I do think that, yeah, that's kind of rubbed people the wrong way quite a bit. And even just the gameplay itself, it did look a bit you know, like it just looked a little finicky. There was something about the way it looked, but again, I think it was just the matter of it's probably a little unfinished, and you know, again, the HUD just doesn't look very good. So it's just a bad first impression, in my opinion, all around, unfortunately. And you're also watching it on like a live stream, you know, from a live stream to another live stream, basically. It's what the COD Next stream was, and that's where most of the people were getting the gameplay clips. So of course it's not going to look great. And also they chose to show off the map that I think is the most bland looking map we've probably seen in years. I mean, other than I guess like Outbreak and stuff, but like in general, just the way it looks, yeah, it is more of a bland looking map. I think most people could agree on that. And the last point I wanted to talk about is actually related more so towards Liberty Falls. And it's the fact that a lot of people are saying that, oh, Liberty Falls is meant to be a bonus map, so we shouldn't really complain about it looking kind of bland. But here's the thing. They never called it a bonus map. Like, I'm not sure where that phrase has been coming from, because they've never called this a bonus map. The Giant was a bonus map. Classified was a bonus map. This was not being called a bonus map. It was being called a more casual map, for sure. It was saying it's going to be a lot easier, maybe just even a simpler map. But at the end of the day, even if it was called a bonus map, I don't think any of their complaints really are negated by just calling it a bonus map, because the Giant and Classified didn't look bland at all. Like, those maps look pretty solid. Even Groston House from World War II, it still looks quite like a zombies map. It doesn't really give like a multiplayer map vibe. So I don't really see how calling it a bonus map is somehow negating those complaints. Now, if there are people complaining about like, oh, where are all the features, where are all the mechanics, where are all the Easter eggs, obviously they turned all those off. So anybody saying that is kind of stupid, because obviously the Easter eggs and all that stuff, it was turned off for this event. We're gonna see that later on. Perhaps there's even going to be more areas that we don't know about yet. Maybe they shut off certain areas for the reveal. I have no idea. But at the end of the day, I don't think just saying, oh, it's supposed to be a bonus map negates really any of the criticism I've been seeing. At least like 90% of the criticism I've been seeing. I think 90% of the criticism still exists regardless of if it's meant to be a bonus map or not. All in all, I think it's completely valid to be hating on Black Ops 6 Zombies. Again, as long as you're being respectful about it and you're not harassing specific developers, then I feel like it's really not a problem to just have your own criticisms and your own critiques. But I do think some people need to definitely inform themselves a little bit more, because like I said, there have been some critiques that don't really make sense. Like if you're complaining about there not being a lot of Easter eggs on the map, like they turn those off, so no shit, right? But in general, I think a lot of people kind of need to lay off the people who are critiquing just a little bit. If you want to disagree with them, that's fine. If you have your own disagreements with what they've been saying, that's fine too. Like if everything about this mode so far looks incredible to you, you think it's the best looking Zombies to date, and you are so excited for it, then that's awesome. Like I'm thrilled for you. Personally, I think most of it looks solid. I was in love with the Terminus reveal. I think Terminus looks fantastic. Obviously, I have a lot of issues with how the gameplay looked itself, but a lot of that could be alleviated by the time the game comes out. Or hell, maybe all of my problems with the gameplay will still exist with the full game, but as long as the Easter eggs and the side Easter eggs are all fun and good and really enjoyable, then I'll probably end up loving the game regardless. Like, I don't need everything to go my way in order to enjoy it. And I think a lot of other people should probably be the same way, but that does not mean you shouldn't be allowed to criticize it. You can criticize something and still love it. It's very possible to do. I've been doing it my whole damn life. I love reviewing games, movies, TV shows, and guess what? There's plenty of my favorite movies and shows of all time that I've criticized heavily. It's kind of just part of what I like to do on YouTube, and I'm going to continue to do that. So when I make a video critiquing the hell out of a game, it is not me trying to stir up a bunch of hate, trying to make the game seem like it's going to be terrible, trying to change people's opinions. I got some people accusing me of trying to change my audience's opinions on Call of Duty Zombies. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm sharing my own thoughts and opinions and hoping that some of the feedback gets back to the developers, so perhaps they can make changes if they feel necessary. If they don't, then they don't have to. They don't have to make a single change that I want. I will be completely fine with that, but I'm going to still criticize it. Hell, if we got 10 more years of Zombies that is just like this Warzone era, I really fucking hope not. But if it is like that, I'm going to still play it and probably still enjoy it, but I'm still going to criticize it. I'm still going to say, hey, you know, I kind of miss that Black Ops 3 era of Zombies where, you know, the mechanics were a little more similar to the classic era. I'm going to say it. I'm going to do it. But will I still enjoy what we have now? Probably. It's very possible for you to do that. So I'll leave it at that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Peace out, everyone.